Society of British Aircraft Constructors show at Farnborough this year was bigger and better than ever. Interested crowds included invited representatives from over 60 countries. They were all there to see a display of the latest and best in British aircraft construction. The weather was ideal. Marshal of the Royal Air Force Lord Tedder was there, so were two others vitally interested in air defence, Mr. A.V. Alexander and Field Marshal Sir William Slim. There was plenty to interest them. This is the Sierva Air Horse, a 24-seater helicopter powered by a Merlin engine. Outstanding among the bombers was the Canberra B-1 made by the English Electric Company, a medium-range turbojet of tremendous speed and maneuverability. Then there was the Avro Shackleton, the largest military aircraft in the show, a long-range maritime reconnaissance bomber. With the accent on peace, or so we hope, civil aircraft were obviously very much to the fore. Here's the de Havilland Comet, a 36-passenger jet airliner and the first of its kind in the world. Vickers Viscount, already on order by British Airlines and powered by turbo propellers, gave a spectacular display with two engines stopped and feathered. The Hermes 5 from the Handley Page stable, a pressurized 40-seater, again powered by turboprops. With a full complement of passengers and 3.5 tons of freight, it can fly 2,000 miles at 330 miles an hour. Another aircraft with an outstanding performance. The Apollo fills the gap between feeder planes and the larger machines. Mamba turboprops provide the power, and up to 30 passengers can be accommodated. Still more turboprops. This time in Handley Page Marathon 2, a feeder aircraft. She was another machine to show her paces on only half power. But perhaps the most spectacular performances were put up by the smaller types. Here's the DH-112, the Venom, a development of the famous Vampire. Another factor in the improved jet performances this year was the system of boosting known as reheat. Blenheim's twin sister, the DH-113, intended for night fighting. The main difference being the twin seats, which provide for a pilot and radar operator. The Meteor, fitted with 2 Avon jets, is the most powerful fighter in the world. One of the very latest, a Hawker P1052 powered by a Rolls-Royce Neen turbojet. And what's rumoured to be the fastest aircraft in the show, the Vickers Supermarine 510, an experimental supersonic job. Among the most interesting was the Avro 707, another experimental machine which has become known as the Flying Triangle because of its delta fall. It came off the secret list at 2:30 p.m. on the first day of the show and was flying the same afternoon. Coming over at between 300 and 350 miles an hour, she excited a tremendous amount of interest. Her 33-foot span wings of equilateral pattern are perhaps the shape of things to come. Two distinguished visitors. The short Solent flew just over the heads of the spectators, an impressive and frightening sight. And Britain's biggest aviation achievement, Brabazon, took off from Bristol to fly to Farnborough. When 130 tons of aircraft takes off, it makes a suitable subject for a close-up. The 100-seater airliner came over at really low level, a magnificent spectacle at a magnificent show. In fact, the greatest air show the world has yet seen. At Farnborough Airfield, near London, Britain displays her newest aircraft in an exhibition which grows yearly in interest, attracting an ever-increasing number of visitors from every country. 58 aircraft are on show, many for the first time. Detailed information on the performance of some of them is of course still on the secret list, but aviation experts acclaim the British machines as the finest aircraft of their types in the world. Naturally, in these uncertain times, designers have given considerable thought to the fighting services. On view was the ground attack version of the Meteor, surrounded by the remarkably large and varied range of weapons which it carries. Claimed to be capable of carrying 4 1,000-pound bombs, it's also fitted with rocket boosters. Large crowds saw a magnificent display by renowned pilots flying all types of aircraft, both civil and military, large and small. Among them, Scotland's Pioneer 2, a 4 to 5-seater light transport. Another flighty little 4-seater, the Auster Eaglet, which you can buy for just over £1,000 or $3,000. A remarkable contrast is the 130-ton Brabazon. This enormous machine, with its 8 2,500 horsepower Bristol Centaurus engines, is of course the world's largest land airliner. Here's Britain's biggest air transport, the 4-engine Blackburn Universal Freighter, capable of carrying a small bus or other sizable vehicles such as heavy trucks or even bulldozers. Specially designed for anti-submarine work, the experimental short SP3. Housed in that peculiar shaped nose is the latest detection gear. Looks a bit like a flying elephant, doesn't it? Serving as a feeder liner is a beautifully shaped aircraft, the new de Havilland Heron. Two examples of the Vickers Viscount were on display. First, the experimental Tay Viscount, powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Tay turbojets. Then there was the Viscount 700. This 50-seater medium-range airliner with a cruising speed of 312 miles an hour is powered by 4 turbo-propeller engines. She's here seen flying with 3 of them feathered. Originally intended for service on the European route in 1952, owing to heavy holiday traffic during the summer of 1950, the prototype was brought into service on the Paris run nearly 2 years ahead of schedule. Still supreme, the world-famous long-range jet airliner de Havilland Comet has a cruising speed of 490 miles an hour. It's in production for BOAC and Canadian Pacific Airlines. There was a demonstration of refueling in the air by what is called the probe and drogue system, developed after years of intensive experiment by Sir Alan Cobham. A Lincoln bomber acts as a tanker, and a Meteor takes on the fuel at about 250 gallons a minute. An automatic cutoff prevents loss of fuel when the 2 aircraft separate. Now the process is repeated. Flight refueling may be one of the most significant modern developments in aviation, with far-reaching effects in both civil and military fields. Test pilot Peter Lawrence puts the anti-submarine plane YB-1 through its paces for part of the time with the front prop feathered. It has an Armstrong-Siddeley double-member turbo propeller. Largest single-seater striker fighter in production for the Navy is the Westland Wyvern TF-2. Armed with cannons in the wings and carrying a torpedo externally under the fuselage, the Wyvern is the latest example of the recent naval policy of employing single-seater aircraft. A high-altitude research aircraft is the Ashton, built by A.V. Rowe. It has 4 Rolls-Royce Nene turbojet engines and a speed of over 400 miles an hour. Of great interest was the Avro 707B. This delta-wing research aircraft, known to the public as the Flying Triangle on account of its shape, is one of several experimental types which may succeed in revealing fresh possibilities in high-speed flight. Coming in to land low and fast, the pilot uses a tail parachute to act as a brake. Wimpy Wade, chief test pilot of Hawkers, flies the P1081 fighter with its Rolls-Royce Nene turbojet engine. It certainly travels like greased lightning. The Vickers 535, flown by Mike Liscoe, an experimental fighter also powered by a Nene turbojet engine, may be even faster than the 1081. It was squadron leader Jan Zurakowski who gave perhaps the most spectacular performance of the show with the Meteor 8, powered by the latest Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire engines, the most powerful yet designed. He climbed to 40,000 feet in the incredible time of about 3 minutes. Finally, Wing Commander Roland Beaumont, chief test pilot of English Electric, pilots the latest version of the Canberra jet bomber, which is now going into production for the RAF. The first high-altitude light jet bomber, it's powered by 2 Avon gas turbines and has a remarkable turn of speed and maneuverability. So this year's Farnborough display demonstrates once again that Britain excels in the field of aviation. Farnborough, 1952. Farnborough has become a famous name in any language, and the Farnborough Show is now firmly established as one of the most important events of the year in Britain. Every year since the war has added to its interest, and each new show demonstrates that the Society of British Aircraft Constructors has managed to improve on the amazing achievements revealed the previous year. The crowds are made up of visitors from all over the world. In the first few days, it's the experts, the potential customers. In the latter days of this September week, it's the public's turn to gaze, wonder and marvel at the new developments which are now on view for all to see and understand. And how many astounding new developments there are. If it was only for the advent of the new Bristol Britannia, the year would have been notable. But in addition, there's the new Delta wing aircraft, the habitual piercing of the sound barrier, and the introduction of the comet on the air routes of the world. One of the visitors particularly interested in what he saw was His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Now for some miscellaneous camera impressions of the flying display, the civil aircraft first. Here's the de Havilland Heron, a 14 to 17-seater, in production for airlines all over the world from Japan to Norway. The Eaglet Trainer being thrown about by its pilot, Ronald Porteous. She's a 3-seater product of Auster Aircraft, designed for flying schools and clubs. In these days of supersonic speeds, it's rare, isn't it, to see aerobatics at such close range. The Skeeter helicopter is a 2-seater made by Saunders Roe. Korea has proved the military value of the small helicopter. Its civilian uses are a challenge to the imagination. By contrast, here's the Bristol 173 helicopter. This is the world's first helicopter to have twin-engined reliability. She can, if necessary, fly on only one of her 2 engines. The 173, still in the early development stage, is designed to carry about 14 passengers and may be the city-to-city bus of the future. In the meanwhile, we can take pride in the proved successes of today. The Vickers Viscount can claim the honor of having been the first turbine-powered airliner to carry fare-paying passengers in 1950. She's a turboprop type, not a straight jet. More than 50 are now on order for the airlines, including 26 which will fly on the continental routes of British European Airways, carrying up to 53 passengers. You can see how easily she maintains height with 3 of her engines stopped. The first commercial jet airliner, the most sought-after aircraft in the world, is, of course, the Comet. That's the Comet being used as a test bed to demonstrate, experimentally, rocket-assisted takeoff with the Sprite. Here we show a Canadian Comet due for delivery to Canadian Pacific Airways. De Havilland, with their Comet, shot several years ahead in design for the long-distance air routes of the world. 36 passengers are carried on stages up to 1,750 miles. Later versions will have increased range and will also carry more passengers. They'll become familiar in the air and on airfields everywhere. So will the turboprop Britannia, which we've already seen on the ground. For flights in which the speed of the Comet is not all important, the Bristol Britannia is the ideal airliner. She has a large carrying capacity, anything from 60 to 100 passengers. BOAC, who have ordered 26, believe that the design of the Britannia will prove to be the most economical and efficient ever conceived. A lovely, graceful machine, her evolution ranks as a milestone equal to the regular services of the Comet. In that evolution, as in the development of all successful aircraft, the test pilot plays an enormously important part. Farnborough this year poignantly emphasized the hazardous nature of the test pilot's contribution. Here are a few who put on the marvelous show which this film is trying to picture for you. Peg, Britannia. Trubshaw, the Viscount. Bryce, Vickers Valiant. Tyson, Princess Flying Boat. Beaumont, Canberra Trainer. Lithgow, Vickers 508. Cahoon, the Supermarine Swift. Falk, the Vulcan. Waterton, the Gloucester Javelin. The late John Derry of the de Havilland 110 with his observer Tony Richards, the 2 men who were killed in the distressing crash. And Neville Duke, the Hawker Hunter. The launching and successful first flight of the long-range Saunders Roe Princess Flying Boat had been one of the big aviation events of the summer. Now the huge vessel wings proudly over Farnborough on her 10 engines. 4 of the turboprop engines you can see are coupled units. Her accommodation for 102 passengers could be converted to carry 250 troops if need be. And that brings brings us by a natural transition to military types. Starting again with trainers, highly important in the education of air crews in this jet age, the Canberra trainer is now seen to advantage in a spectacular sequence which shows off her amazing maneuverability. No wonder the Canberra has caught on in the United States and is being built in Australia as well. Creation of the English Electric Company and also being built by such well-known firms as Shorts, Handy Page and A.V. Rowe, she is now being supplied to the Royal Air Force. The latest type flew across the Atlantic and back to Britain in an all-in time of 10 hours for the double journey. The faith of the English Electric Company in their first pioneering effort in jet aircraft has been abundantly justified. A new phrase, super priority, has been invented for Britain's rearmament drive, and in super priority production for the RAF is the Supermarine Swift. A single-engined fighter, although her two intakes like elephant's ears on either side of the fuselage may give the impression of two engines, she is certainly of distinctive design. She has a London to Brussels record to her credit, averaging 665 miles per hour for the 200 miles. That is completing the journey in just over 18 minutes. The most revolutionary fighter in super priority production for the RAF is the twin-engined, delta-winged Gloucester Javelin. She's a two-seater, long-range, day and night fighter, radar-equipped, capable of flying faster than sound. Is the Delta the design of the future? Many authorities seem to think so. Experiments are being conducted by a number of aircraft constructors since the war, but the Javelin is the first Delta fighter to be put into actual production. Resembling those paper darts with which boys at school amuse themselves, you might think that she had her own peculiar quirks and tricks which would require patient study to understand and master. But according to her test pilot, the Javelin's flying and handling characteristics vary little from those of the conventional plank-wing aircraft. Notice as she banks and climbs that she leaves a trail behind each wingtip. This peculiar effect is created by atmospheric conditions, not exhaust fumes. The Valiant is an old friend from the previous year. She was ordered by the Air Ministry straight from the drawing board and first flew in May 1951. With her 4 Rolls-Royce turbojet engines, she's believed still to be the most formidable bomber of her class in the world and is, of course, capable of carrying an atomic weapon. One of the great achievements of the firm of Vickers Armstrongs and, of course, in the super priority class. Arriving with the 2 Delta-shaped research aircraft from which she was developed, the Avro Vulcan bomber was top secret at Farnborough. She wasn't exhibited on the ground, and the only views which observers had of her were these. Like the Javelin, she may represent the shape of things to come. Experts say the Delta design is certain to give great speeds over longer ranges at higher ceilings with maximum economy of operation. Here is the de Havilland 110. John Derry regularly on successive days put this twin-engined multi-purpose fighter into a supersonic dive.
Starting to accelerate now. Going up to the speed of sound now. Passing it now.
On one occasion, the Minister of Defence, Lord Alexander, was there to see him do it. The tragedy, which occurred on the last day but one of the show, was not caused by the effect of piercing the sound barrier. Derry had flown to Hatfield and brought back another 110, not the aircraft shown in the earlier shots of this sequence. It was in the second machine that he dived through the barrier.
Down to the dive.
Then he straightened out and circled the aerodrome. The catastrophe occurred when he was preparing to come in for his low-level flight past. Suddenly, the aircraft was disintegrating in the air, with engines and debris being hurled towards a section of the crowd. In spite of the tragedy to the 110, the test pilot of the Hawker Hunter, Neville Duke, forthwith took off his single-seater swept-wing fighter into the air for another supersonic demonstration. It was in a way a tribute to John Derry that his fellow test pilot paid in carrying on immediately with the activities which they had both pioneered. So the Hawker Hunter, which is also in super priority production for the Royal Air Force, shows off her dazzling qualities before the Farnborough crowds. Again, the sound barrier is cracked. Hunter, faster than the American Sabre or the Russian MiG-15, is the lineal descendant of the famous Hurricane. So once more, the Farnborough flying display of the Society of British Aircraft Constructors proved to be an epoch-making event. There had been tragedy, which had served as a reminder of the courage of pioneers, but the overriding impression was of new advances in the story of man's mastery of the air. Farnborough, the Society of British Aircraft Constructors' annual display adds once more to its worldwide reputation. 1953 was a year of consolidation with emphasis on production models rather than prototypes, and above all it showed the British industry's capacity and determination to export. First, the Vickers Viscount, the world's first turboprop airliner. Familiar now to all air travelers in Western Europe where it's in regular service. And the helicopters. Here's the Bristol 173 or rotor coach with twin engines. The pilots demonstrating its ability to use small enclosed spaces. This year, the 173 appears in new form with small stub wings which take 30% of the load off the rotors. The Auster Eaglet, the light aircraft par excellence. Cheap to buy and the sort of aircraft which is popular with farmer and businessman. This model has dual controls for training. The Comet put commercial jet propulsion on the map. The Comet 2, seen here, has more powerful engines and a greater range than the earlier model. It carries 44 passengers on stage lengths of over 2,000 miles and will soon be taking the South Atlantic in its stride. This large new freighter, the Blackburn Beverly, may look cumbersome in the air, but it carries over 20 tons of freight and can operate from small airfields with grass runways. It's on order for the Air Force, and commercial types are also being developed. Here, the Beverly is using her propellers to back to the unloading point. The Princess flying boat, making a slow-speed fly-past over the runway, is fitted with turboprop engines of the same basic type as those in the Britannia. Britannia itself is now fitted with the new Proteus 3 engines. It can carry 100 passengers in solid comfort over very long ranges. More important still, operation costs are particularly low. As the Britannia is brought into land, you get a glimpse inside the control tower. For these controllers, handling aircraft with speeds varying from 100 to 700 miles an hour is a day-by-day achievement. And a very responsible job it is.
Olympus Canberra, taxi on over.
Now let's turn to military and research types. Since the Canberra became the first British jet bomber to fly, she's added quite a string of firsts and records to her name. Here in a particularly spectacular climb is the Olympus Canberra, which holds the world's height record, 63,668 feet. The Canberra is being built in the United States and Australia as well as in Great Britain, and she's also in service with the Venezuelan Air Force. The DH-110 is under development for the Royal Navy. Although not a newcomer to Farnborough, it's worth noting the maneuverability of this two-seater aeroplane, which has beaten the sound barrier with no trouble at all on numerous occasions. As a contrast, the short Seamew, also in production for the Navy. A turboprop anti-submarine aircraft which can take off and land from small escort carriers. In the purely research class, the SB-5, a product of the same firm, is designed to test performance with the wings swept at varying angles. Here they're set at 60 degrees, but they can be moved back still further to 69 degrees. The position of the tail is also adjustable. Another research aircraft, the Bolton Paul 111A, a very fast little delta wing type. Head-on, it has a rather grim appearance. Among the fighters on show is the two-seater radar-carrying Gloucester Javelin. Here it demonstrates its astonishing rate of climb. The Javelin, in super priority production for the RAF, has the delta wing, which makes it extremely maneuverable at both high and low altitudes. It's powered by 2 Sapphire engines. Two Supermarine Swifts take off. Speed, climb and firepower, the Swifts are important newcomers to the fighter strength of Western Europe, and that's probably the impression formed by General Grunter as Supreme Commander of Shape. The Hawker Hunter has broken some important world speed records, and here's test pilot Neville Duke with his record-breaking machine in a slow fly past over Farnborough. Like the Swift, is in super priority production for the RAF, and it's also been built under license in Holland and Belgium. She too can fly at supersonic speeds. That's one of the shock clouds characteristic of sonic flight. Now, wait for it. Page Victor, another new aircraft on show at Farnborough for the first time, is Britain's latest V-bomber to go into production. The Victor has crescent or scimitar wings, which its designers claim share the advantages of the delta and swept wings, thereby producing good high-altitude performance and easy landing. Valiant was the second V-bomber on show. This is the Mark II variant. Now the third V-bomber, the Vulcan. The Vulcan, the world's first delta-wing bomber, is in production for the Royal Air Force. Here we see the first two Vulcans taking the air. Flying in formation with the small experimental Avro 707s from which they were developed, they pass majestically by, bringing to a close the display of this year's aircraft. But progress continues, bringing to Britain greater prosperity and security in this jet age.
First, a pilot-eye view of the 1955 Farnborough show, with the giant wings of Britain's big bombers dominating the scene. This was the 16th display by the Society of British Aircraft Constructors, and as always, it was a display that people from all over the world wanted to see. In the course of Farnborough Week, they came in their hundreds of thousands from scores of countries. Interest in British aircraft construction seemed to be keener than ever, but that's not surprising in view of the forward policy of British designers. Among distinguished visitors to the display was America's General Grunter, Supreme Commander Allied Powers in Europe. The First Sea Lord, Admiral Lord Mountbatten. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, himself an expert pilot, had flown over. The Italian Foreign Minister was another of many important overseas visitors. And here's Mrs. Pundit, India's High Commissioner. Everyone who went to the show certainly found plenty to see and examine. The assembly of aircraft was comprehensive, from the supersonic experimental to the brand new utility. Military aircraft were prominent, with emphasis on attack. All shapes and sizes were on view, from a new look in fighters to the latest V-bomber. Yes, details of aerodynamic design provided a fascinating study at the static display. One of the most easily spotted of the aircraft being the Victor with its lofty tail unit. Then, streaking out of the clouds, the Comet opens the fly past. Development work on this aircraft is leading to the new Comet 4. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Avon jets, this aircraft will fly from London to Johannesburg via Cairo and Nairobi in just over 15 hours. Scottish Aviation's Twin Pioneer can take off in less than 100 yards. This new version of the Pioneer is a 14 to 16-seater transport with a speed range of 50 to 180 miles an hour. It's capable of one-man operation, but has provision for a second crew member and flies stage distances of up to 500 miles. The Twin Pioneer shows its extreme handiness by its short, slow-speed landing. The brilliant success of the Vickers Viscount is well known. This magnificent aircraft opened the world's first scheduled turboprop airliner service. Nearly 250 have been ordered by 28 different operators in Britain and overseas. The Bristol Britannia made a most impressive showing at Farnborough. Powered by 4 Proteus turboprop engines, the Britannia 100 is designed to carry 90 passengers over Commonwealth routes. A later version will fly from London to New York non-stop. Now, in full production, it should have a great future. The Handley Page Herald is a newcomer to Farnborough. It's a 36 to 44-seater medium-range transport with a cruising speed of 200 knots. 29 have already been ordered by 3 operators, one of which is Queensland Airlines. Helicopters showing their paces included the Bristol Type 173. This is a twin-rotor tandem engaged in flight research. Forward or backwards, it makes no difference to the 173. Fairey's new ultra-light is designed as an army spotter or for runabout duties. As in the case of the ultra-light, so in another new Fairey product, the jet gyrodyne, a research helicopter, the rotor is driven by compressed air jets at the blade tips. In cruising flight, most of the gyrodyne's power is transferred to two propellers on the stub wings. The Saunders Roe Skeeter 6 is a two-seater light helicopter designed for civil use. It's powered by a Gypsy Major engine and has a maximum speed of 100 miles an hour. Helicopters, of course, are coming more and more into the picture. Sir Anthony Eden adopted this most direct and convenient form of transport when he came to inspect the Farnborough show. The Prime Minister was starting a tour of service establishments, and he made a point of getting plenty of close-ups here. Presently, putting on a flying suit, the Premier prepared for a trip in an Avro Vulcan. This aircraft is the world's first delta-wing four-jet bomber. It's due to enter squadron service in RAF Bomber Command next year. During his flight, Sir Anthony himself handled the controls and is reported to have been greatly impressed by this great and formidable machine. The Vulcan has flown at over 50,000 feet near the speed of sound. Avro test pilot Roland Falk, flying over Farnborough, put the giant bomber into a perfect roll as if it were a fighter. A spectacular achievement and a spectacular machine. The Avro Shackleton MR3 flew over with 3 of her 4 engines feathered. Short Seamews, two-seater light anti-submarine aircraft, flew past in formation. And here, installed under an Ashton, is the Rolls-Royce Conway bypass engine, a major advance in gas turbine technology. Now the de Havilland Jaren, claimed to be the most powerful type-tested engine yet announced, mounted experimentally in the Sperry. One of Britain's already famous V-bombers is the Handley Page Victor in super priority production. Another is the Vickers Valiant. These long-range high-speed bombers in service with the RAF have already set a number of records. Singapore to Darwin at an average speed of 518 miles an hour, and London to Baghdad at over 523. The Avro CF-100 is a two-seater long-range all-weather fighter. It was designed and built in Canada and is in service with the RCAF for Arctic defense. Here's some attractive evidence of how the CF-100 handles. Spectators presently had a particular thrill when they saw the English Electric P-1, the first British aircraft to exceed the speed of sound in level flight. Now Squadron Leader Tennant prepares to take up the Folland Nat-1, a development of the Midge. This lightweight supersonic fighter makes 2 notable claims: that it is only about 1/3 of the weight of a conventional fighter, and that it can be produced in about 1/5 of the time. The British Ministry of Supply has ordered a number of Nats for development flying. An increasingly common practice with high-speed aircraft is followed by the Nat, the use of a parachute brake when landing. The Fairey Delta II has an elongated nose, which can be lowered to give the pilot a good view forward. In this case, it's being raised, and the pilot takes off with the nose in normal position. The Delta II is yet another research aircraft probing into the future. It's capable of supersonic speed in level flight and has exceptionally thin wings. These impressions of its flying demonstration seem to indicate that it will do anything demanded of it. Coming into land, the nose is lowered. And once again, parachutes slow down the landing run. Now another Delta, the Gloucester Javelin. This long-range, all-weather, radar-equipped fighter is designed to carry a most advanced electronic and guided weapon system. Powered by two Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire jets, the Javelin is supersonic. Finally, to round off this great show, the Hawker Hunter. The Hunter F4 can be equipped with plastic drop tanks, 100-gallon tanks that don't affect the aircraft's handling qualities. It also has special attachments for underwing weapons. The two-seater trainer is a new version. On order for the RAF, it's undergoing intensive development. Earlier Hunters have already completed their first year of squadron service with the RAF. Meanwhile, Hunter export orders have passed the £120 million mark, surely a great tribute to its quality. Undoubtedly, the flying display by these British fighters thrilled all who were watching. The formation roaring overhead was certainly a highlight of this Farnborough flypast. It's 10 years now since the British aircraft industry decided to hold its annual show at the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough. Similar displays had been held since 1932, but it's at Farnborough that the show has attained its full stature. Size and variety alone distinguish it as the largest display of its kind in the world, and that's no small achievement for a national display. But it's a national display with an international interest, for Farnborough has become an established link between the industry and world export markets. This year, a record number of overseas visitors came to look at this export shop window, over 7,000 of them. Already in 1958, almost 50% more of the industry's products had been sold overseas than in the same period in 1957, itself a record year. Let's have a more detailed look at the aircraft on show. The Westland Westminster in its first public appearance. One of the largest helicopter projects ever undertaken in Britain, this version is an aerial crane for heavy loads. There's tremendous overseas interest in the Fairey Rotodyne. The first order from Canada could well mean another success story like that of the Viscount. Our cameraman gets his share of the reflected glory as he photographs Britain's most successful civil airliner. Now here's something which isn't yet for sale, but which is attracting widespread world interest. It's the short SC-1, a research vertical takeoff machine. It's a design to study the transition between hovering and forward flight. A significant machine pointing to the future development of flight. Farnborough's a flying show, and I expect you're waiting to see some, highlighting the service's contribution, Seahawks of the Royal Navy. The flying teamwork of these massed displays is one of the most memorable features of the show. Jumping grasshoppers must have inspired this bouncing baby, the Fairey Ultra Light, a two-seater runabout. Its handiness is shown by the ease with which it takes off and lands on a moving lorry. With its first flight only a month or so earlier, the Saunders Roe P531 is Britain's latest helicopter. It's a five-seater general-purpose machine. Another Saunders Roe product, the Skeeter, seen here with the 531, has been bought by West Germany. The Westland Wessex, in production for the Royal Navy, is a very advanced anti-submarine helicopter. Have you ever seen a helicopter do this before? Here's the Westminster from the same stable. Looking like some predatory dragonfly, it's powered by two Napier Elan turbines. This is the utility version, which can lift a load of over 6 tons. As a passenger or troop transport, it has seating for 46, a really neat piece of engineering. Another Napier unit, the Gazelle, powers this new helicopter, the Bristol 192. Mechanics cover the air intakes, leaving only one power unit in action. Both engines being synchronized, it's possible to drive the two rotors on one engine. As Europe's largest military helicopter, this safety factor is a big consideration. One of the brightest stars in the Farnborough firmament is really two machines in one. Fabulous is a well-worn word, but the Fairey Rotodyne gives it a new significance as the world's first vertical takeoff airliner. With the rotor idling, it flies like a fixed-wing aircraft. For takeoff and landing, compressed air from the two turboprop engines is ducted to pressure jets on the rotor blades. It's among the most dramatic machines ever shown at Farnborough. More conventional, but with its own specialized contribution, is the Auster Alpha. Here, fitted out as a crop sprayer, this low-price aircraft is adaptable to a variety of uses in a variety of climates. Hunting aircraft present the latest version of their Jet Provost, in production for the Royal Air Force as the world's first basic trainer for jet pilots. By replacing initial training on piston engine planes, jet pilots reach a far higher standard faster. Here's a slow roll by numbers. The docile Provost is on the pilot's side all the time. Another easy handler is the Folland Gnat, a single-seater lightweight designed as an interceptor and strike fighter. The Gnat features ease of maintenance and cheap running costs. In fact, it's a jet fighter on a shoestring. Another service machine is the Fairey Gannet for the Royal Navy. In this version, the lump under the fuselage conceals a radar scanner. The plane will be used from aircraft carriers to extend their defensive radar system. By closing down one half of its turboprop engine, its flying endurance is increased. Now let's step up the speed with the well-named English Electric Lightning, or P1 as it used to be called. It's an all-purpose fighter ordered by the Royal Air Force. Its Rolls-Royce Avon jets give it a top speed of around 1,500 miles an hour, while it can be fitted with a rocket engine for high-altitude flying. Fleet Air Arm scimitars in action. Hawker Hunters have been adopted by the air forces of Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, Peru, Iraq, Holland, Switzerland and India. This is a Mark 8 two-seater, a special version ordered for the Royal Navy. Our cameraman catches a close-up of a Javelin Mark 7. Although a fighter, it carries a heavy armament of cannon, rockets and fire-streak guided missiles. Guided missiles are a priority in Britain's defence programme, so naturally they're featured at Farnborough. The Bristol Bloodhound is a surface-to-air anti-aircraft weapon. With its clutch of booster rockets, it looks formidable enough even here on its launching platform. But we can get a far more impressive idea of its capabilities if we watch a film of Bloodhound on the scent. The boosters are discarded and the Thor ramjet engines take over. A radar beam projected from the ground is reflected from the target to a receiver in the missile. Bloodhound homes on this reflected signal. Here's the result. Quite a performance, especially as this missile had no warhead. Black Knight is a ballistic rocket designed for research purposes. During this Farnborough show, we were to hear the dramatic announcement reporting that Black Knight's first flight in Australia had been an unqualified success. The single-stage rocket had shot into space right up to satellite height. One purpose of the exercise was to study re-entry from outer space. Now for Britain's latest warplane, the first of a new type. It's the NA-39, and as you'd expect, it caused a great stir among the Farnborough audience. It's a low-level naval strike aircraft, powered by two Jaren Junior turbojets, and was designed as a carrier-borne aircraft. In contrast, and further stressing the variety of planes at Farnborough, here's Hunting Percival's President, a passenger and freight transport. Britain's supremacy in the civil airline field is largely due to machines like the Vickers Viscount, the world's first turboprop airliner. The Viscount's success story is written in many languages, for some 350 are in service in 30 countries all over the world. By all accounts, another success story is about to begin, with de Havilland Comet as the title. No civil airliner has undergone a more intensive testing program. This version is the 3B. Notice the effect of reverse thrust from the four Rolls-Royce Avon jets as the huge airliner touches down. It uses very little runway, surprisingly little for so heavy a machine. Now, the Comet 4. Soon after the Farnborough show, a Comet 4 completed the trip from Hong Kong to London in just over 16 hours, a record for the distance. The Vulcan V bomber, another big fella. But watch how responsive it is. The Vulcan was the world's first four-jet delta-wing bomber, and it's a mainstay of Britain's V-bomber defense force. This latest version, the B-2, gives greater range, altitude, and performance. It's armed here with the powerful standoff bomb, which can be launched from well outside hostile defenses. Another of the V-bombers, and the biggest of them all, is the Handley Page Victor. It certainly looks businesslike, to judge from the sinister expression on its face. As a finale to this Farnborough show, let's join the famous Black Arrows of Treble One Squadron, a Royal Air Force team flying Hawker Hunters. 22 aircraft looping the loop. If you don't believe it, watch the ground turning over. So another Farnborough show is over. But for the industry who presented it, another year's work lies ahead to improve the breed. There's a great challenge to face. But this is a great industry. This is Farnborough, 1959, the 20th flying display and exhibition organised by the Society of British Aircraft Constructors. Farnborough in southern England, the largest and most famous air show in the world. It reflects the growth of a whole industry, and its success is the success of British aircraft. One of the fascinations of this industry is its variety. One newcomer isn't really a plane at all. But as a revolution in transport, the hovercraft is attracting great interest at home and abroad. It may one day be as much in demand as the Viscount, which has earned a premier position on the air routes of the world. There's always a tremendous overseas interest in Farnborough, but never before has the show attracted so many visitors from abroad. Their numbers reflect the importance of the industry in world markets. Indeed, the first 8 months of the year had set an export record. And there was every sign that 1959 would be an all-time high. Since the war, overseas buyers have spent nearly £900 million on British aviation products. And exports are now running at the rate of £3.5 million a week. Here's the well-known Hawker Hunter. Besides earning £200 million worth of overseas orders, it highlights another significant function of the industry, that is to provide weapons to fulfill Britain's defence programme. The missile display is a forceful reminder of the industry's rapid response to this programme. The English electric Thunderbird, an anti-aircraft weapon in service with the Army. Another anti-aircraft missile, the Bristol Bloodhound, is playing a key role in the United Kingdom's air defence. Bloodhound is claimed to have the longest range of any missile of its type in the world. The Black Knight research rocket was designed by the Royal Aircraft Establishment in collaboration with the builders Saunders Roe. It's a rocket for high-altitude research. Now the flying display itself. The show lasts for 7 days, and the daily climax begins with the aircraft being towed out and made ready for flight. To watch a flying display at Farnborough is an experience few can forget. The variety of machines, the impeccable timing of their performance, the stopwatch regularity of takeoff and landing. There's always a tremendous thrill of anticipation about it. Over 350,000 visitors saw this year's display, and they had perfect weather for it too. First in the program is the Comet, and de Havilland's chief test pilot, John Canningham, goes aboard to show off the 4B version to the waiting crowds. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Avon jets, its takeoff run is exceptionally short. Let's go upstairs and get alongside the Comet in the air. This is one advantage of seeing Farnborough on film. Wearing the colourful new livery of British European Airways, it will start operating early in 1960. The standard Comet 4 is already in service with BOAC and other airlines. The use of reverse thrust enables it to operate from quite small airfields. We spotted the Crown Prince of Nepal among spectators watching another jet, the pocket-size Folland Gnat, a 2-seat training version of this lightweight fighter. Incidentally, this prototype had only flown for 10 hours before its Farnborough appearance. It's a development of the single-seat fighter beyond. Another jet trainer is the 2-seater version of the English electric Lightning. This machine first flew in the spring of 1959. And it has the same performance as the fighter version. In other words, it's fully supersonic. The single-seat fighter furthest from the camera has been ordered in quantity for the Royal Air Force. Blackburn Aircraft's contribution in the transonic field is the NA-39. A 2-seater strike aircraft for the Navy, designed to give the high speed and accurate control needed for low-level attack. In its class, it's been described as ahead of any other aircraft in the world. Always a Farnborough highlight, formation aerobatics by the services. A twinkle roll. A new maneuver by scimitar jets introduces the pilots of the Royal Navy, the men of 807 Squadron. Let's follow the fighter bombers in a formation roll, flying as if linked by invisible threads, while earth and sky revolve around. Now have another look at the hovercraft. Floating on a cushion of air supplied from an Alvis Leonides piston engine, it glides over land or water without touching the surface. Its potential as a cross-channel or river ferry has brought many inquiries from overseas, and its designers are hoping to follow this prototype with a version weighing 40 tons. In striking contrast, here is the tremendous power potential of the V-bomber. Watch this fantastic takeoff of the Avro Vulcan. This version, the B-2, is a development of the world's first 4-jet Delta wing bomber. After a slow fly past, its 4 Bristol Siddeley Olympus jets hurl the huge machine into the sky. From jets to turboprops, the Handley Page Herald with well-tried Dart engines making a spectacular picture. It's a medium-range passenger or freight transport. As for the brand new airliners at Farnborough, the largest is the Vickers Vanguard. This machine has made a tremendous impact both at home and abroad. The reasons aren't hard to find. Vickers claim that its economy with Rolls-Royce Tyne engines could cut many passenger fares by 50%. Its design is the result of their experience with over 400 Viscounts. The whole thing was neatly summed up by the president of Trans-Canada Airlines, who have ordered 20. As good as the Viscount, but twice as big. Another of 1959's newcomers is the Argosy Freighter Coach, a new design from Armstrong Whitworth for the rapidly expanding air freight market. With its Dart turboprops, it can operate from almost any existing airfield, and that's a must for any multi-purpose machine. The Argosy can carry nearly 14 tons of freight or 83 passengers. It can be used as an air ferry for cars and passengers, and there's a military version which has been adopted by the RAF. In whatever capacity, its great feature is economy. Another machine with a variety of uses is the Fairey Rotodyne, famous as the world's first vertical takeoff airliner. Here's a Rotodyne's angle on the Farnborough scene. Down below, a visitor from Bahrain looks on as the Rotodyne goes through its paces. It combines the merits of helicopter and fixed-wing airliner, vertical takeoff and landing, and forward flight at nearly 200 miles an hour. The production version will carry 65 passengers. Now, what's all this? A cabin full of nurses gives a vivid example of the capacity of this remarkable machine. The Bristol 192 is a twin-engine helicopter in production for the Royal Air Force. In an emergency, both rotors can be driven by one engine. Here it puts on a weightlifting act with the Bristol Bloodhound on the leash. Led by the Westminster Flying Crane, here's Westland's helicopter cavalcade. Research into vertical flight has produced some great advances. The short SC-1 is a delta wing research machine powered by 5 Rolls-Royce jets. It uses the thrust of 4 of them to give vertical lift. The other one drives it along. The lifting jets can also be inclined to give a forward thrust or directed forwards to act as a brake. It's the first machine of its type in the world. Now back to the runway where Hawker hunters are lining up for one of Farnborough's aerobatic displays. These are the men and machines of Treble 1 Squadron Royal Air Force, known collectively and expressively as the Black Arrows. The traditions of the Death or Glory boys, the trailblazers of World War II, have been handed on to the pilots of the jet age. Their skill and daring are now combined in a display to thrill the Farnborough crowds. Hunters dive in a spectacular bomb burst over the field. And we reach the finale of this Farnborough flypast. Another chapter of aviation progress, written in the sky.